This video is an introduction to the word frequency query within NVivo. You can access this query by going to the query ribbon and clicking on word frequency. This is going to open up a new pane here and give us all of the options that we need to conduct this query. We can do it across the whole project with all sources, or you can go in and select certain items. If you only have a small number of things in your project, you may as well stick with all sources. However, if you want to narrow this down to one very specific area of your project, you can go into selected items. Here, I'm going to go in and go into my internals, and I'm just going to conduct this search on the interviews. This will vary depending on the project you're in, and you may have laid yours out in a different layout or a different number of folders. So if I click OK here and run the query, what this is going to do is it's going to look in every single interview, look at every single word and count how many times those words appear. It will give us a list like it has here. So I can see the most frequently used word is the word people. Next up we have east, then think, then like. One of the very popular things about this query is that if I click down the side here, it generates as a word cloud. You'll find there is a contextual ribbon at the top of this query that enables you to restyle this. So you can change the colours and the font essentially to one of these predefined ones available here. If you want something a little bit more traditional, you can go for a tag cloud. If I head back up into one of the word cloud styles, at any point I can double click on one of these words and it will conduct a text search query essentially for where that term occurs within the items I've selected. So here you can see I've got a full list of all references to the word east. This is quite an interesting example actually, because you'll see the reason it comes up a lot is just down to the questions from the interviewers. So in this case we might be better served by, instead of querying the sources, querying the cases instead. Just for the purposes of this example I'm going to move on. However, you'll see, just as with a text search query, there's an option to group words together. So if I group it down to stems, it means that stems of that original word will be counted under the root term. The same with synonyms, specializations and generalizations. It will group words that mean similar things together. So if, as an example, I put this down to specializations and rerun the query, the results are going to look very, very different because of the way the words are grouped together. This query just seems to be taking a little bit of time to load, but you'll see the progress of it is just displayed down here. Right, so it's just generated a new word tree from us, and you can see there's no longer east as the central term. We've got regional and change. Now, to get a feel for the words that are behind these, we can go back to the summary at the top here, and you'll see it shows you the central word at the top to the left, and then it shows all the similar words that is filed underneath this. So if you look here, things like change include float, flood, focus, full. So sometimes those included words can not particularly relate to the keyword, as it's a linguistic relationship and not necessarily the kind of relationship you're intending. I could take one example of this, the word power we might be looking at in the social research context, but it would also bring in things like battery and electricity as well. And a lot of that's down to the way that these terms are grouped. So these are cumulative. Exact matches, each individual word counts the same, counts separately. Stemmed words, it will count words of the same stem under the same terms, root term. So in the example here, talking, talked, and talk will all count under the word talk. Synonyms, however, starts to look at synonyms of not just the root term but the stem as well. The same for specializations. It's looking for specializations of the synonyms, the stems and the matches. So the words can go further away from the original term that you've put in place. As with most of the queries in NVivo, we can add it to our project. So if I click this, it's going to open up a dialog that enables me to save the query that I've got. So I'm just going to save this as frequency and interviews. Click OK, and you'll find that if I go to the query option within navigation pane, there the query that I've just saved is. So if I close it or close the program, move away from it, at any point I can double click here and it will regenerate that same query for me again. The diagrams that are generated as part of this query can be saved. All you need to do is right click here and click on export, and you'll see it saves it in one of most of the common image formats available. These are really useful ways for you to visualize qualitative data without assigning a number to it. So these can be quite popular in social research. One final thing that's useful as part of this query, if you want to remove one of these terms, all you need to do is right click on it, and you can see you can add it to your stop words list. So if I add this word to the stop words list, it's included all of the synonyms, stems, and matches. If I click OK, none of those will be counted in this query again. However, at first, it appears as though there has been no change. So to account for that within the query, all I need to do is click Run Query. And what it's going to do is it's going to generate that query again, but it's going to not look for any of the terms that are in my stop words list. Once again, it's just taking a while to generate. As soon as it loads down here, it's going to show us the results. So you can see here, change has disappeared. And if I go back to the summary, you'll see that and none of its specialization, synonyms, stems or matches have come in.